When I was growing up, I decided that I would play around with hooking. You take fabric and you hook it through, and then you can make a large tapestry out of it. I sort of forgot it until I came with a particular job that they needed a curtain, or they needed a tapestry that went from here to there. And so I said, I know how to hook. And so I had a studio on Huron Avenue, and for a long while I was known as the biggest hooker on Huron Avenue. I never gave it much thought, other than the fact that I was going to be an artist. I had an aunt on my father's side who was a painter, and so everybody thought, well, he'll be an artist. That's until I got to be about 11 or 12, and then I got a little nervous. An artist? Are you going to make a living when you grow up? What are you really going to be? And I said, an artist. And so they looked around and they said, an artist, and starve. I haven't starved yet, as you can see. My mother was very anxious that he should be an artist, and she wanted to look at my fingertips to see that they were long and straight. And she called up some places in Boston, and I was able to ride on the streetcar when I was a little kid. And I went into Boston and went to, I think it's called the Children's Art Center. We drew a little bit, and they would criticize, and off you'd go. And that's about how the training began. After I started to think about it, the only thing that I was really good at was to draw or to paint. I almost didn't really need to go to school to read and write and so on. I just wanted to do things with my hands. It was in 1939 or 38, somewhere in that vicinity, that Vincent van Gogh had his first one-man show in a big museum. My life changed forever seeing that show. I can't tell you how great and important it was to my life to go see this show that showed a whole slew of his paintings, and they were so vivid and in color and in shadow. The whole schmear was so wonderful, and he had a wonderful flow to his brushstroke. And I wanted to try and be like a Vincent van Gogh, but the family wasn't that anxious that I should. Yeah, I redesigned mess halls for various companies, but basically to think about doing my own work, it was very difficult because the only place I could keep supplies, my supplies, the paints, the pictures, the paper, whatever I was working on, was in my duffel laundry bag. You were allowed a duffel bag. It had to be just packed just so. And so when they inspected it, you would have 6 socks, you would have this and that, and 2 shirts or something. But in my laundry bag, it could be anything. They wouldn't look at that. That you hung on the back wall. And so I was able on my back to lug my own clothes and the instruments of stupidity, like a rifle or a machine gun or what have you. If you look at my early pottery, or even light pottery, you see that I was very geometric in design. And all of a sudden it dawned on me I was doing pottery to draw or paint on, and not thinking completely of the pot, because there is a quality about pottery. Pottery is from a mass. You take a mass of clay and you plop it down on a wheel, and you use the kick wheel, and you take your thumb and this hand and you put it against your hip and you press down and you center the clay and you begin to open the pot, and then the pot grows. So it's from mass to movement and then growth. Then it occurred to me that I could make tiles, and then I could scratch on the tile, which we call sgraffito, or Italian for scratch. You could scratch on the tile, and then you could put them here and there, and that the Scott Garvey was about the 6th or 7th floor up, and I used to plop on the ledge of the window and look out, and I said, my God, what I'm doing is a city. And each tile is a window into the aspect of life into the city. And that's why I broke off from doing pottery and then doing tiles and tesserae. I went from one thing to another thing to another thing, and then finally I was beginning to run out of things to go to, and problem was that the studio that I was in was owned by Tufts, and Tufts wanted it back. And it occurred to me that the trouble with oil paints, and you're living in the place, it smells of linseed oil and turpentine and so on and so forth. But the pencils don't smell of anything. I could do portrait paintings or drawings of things in color, and it was much lighter than bronze or stained glass or any one of those others. And it was here. Here is where I did most of the drawings. The thing you'll notice is that the paper has a texture, and that's what creates the feeling of paint underneath the crayons. And then, of course, the one thing you can do, you can mix your crayons like crazy, and it's just great fun. I did the high school in the Bronx. It was the Harry S. Truman High School, and they had 4 lobbies. And they wanted to get murals. These are all mosaic and tile. Of all things was that they were involved with astronomy. I happened to be, as a kid, crazy about astronomy. And up here we have the sky with all the various star arrangements making the various things that would go around our equator. This one, actually, if anybody's interested in seeing it, they can go to Temple Beth Am in Framingham, and this is Ark Doors. And of course the Hebrew says, know who you are praying before or standing before. How old do you think I am?
77.
How about 90?
90, great.
I'm not worried about Parkinson's. I had to have a aorta valve replaced in my heart. That happened just this year. And I've had cancer. So I'm a tough bastard.